Hey everybody, Ricers here bringing you Kingdom Manga chapter 695 titled The Chess. Now, if you have not read this chapter yet, but you have seen the movie 7, you're in luck. You already know exactly what's going to happen in this chapter. But I'll talk about that more when we get there, so let's get right into it. The chapter this week starts off with Kanki's soldiers dealing with the swarm of prisoners that we've accumulated from his plan last chapter. Now, it's really starting to become a problem. These soldiers are going up to one another saying, hey, you got any extra space? Like, can you deal with some of these prisoners for me? And they're all like, man, I'm sorry, but I have way too many here. And they say it directly in the chapter, like, it doesn't matter that they're tied up. If they tried to riot and they get up and revolt, we can't stop them. There's simply too many. It's a numbers thing. It has nothing to do with the strength of Kanki's army or the strength of the prisoners. It's simply a numbers game at this point. And these soldiers are starting to get antsy with it, because you can see they're going up to one another and like, take some of my soldiers. And he's like, no, I can't take any of your soldiers. I'm overbooked. He's overbooked. We have way too many. Stop trying to dump them off. Like, we're all in the same boat here. We get it. Like, there's way too many. But as they're kind of dealing with this, the higher-ups of Kanki's army meet up. Ringyoku, Kokuo, and Maron. And we find out that Kokuo actually dealt a pretty big blow to Ryuhaku. Now, she's like, oh yeah, maybe he'll just die from that. But there's probably going to be enough time for him to recover and get medical attention here. But hey, you know what? Next chapter, maybe we start off and it's like, oh my gosh, Ryuhaku's on death's door. I mean, it'd be pretty good. Any blow to the higher-ups is always a good thing when you're talking about the wars in Kingdom. Now, these commanders here are really kind of shook by everything that happened. Like, damn, we have absolute faith in the boss, but he really outdid himself here. This plan was amazing. But they're also kind of mad, too, because Maron knew the plan. Now, these guys are all bandits, so they shoot the shit with one another. And they're like, hey, Maron, why'd you run away? And he's like, well, I mean, I just didn't think we were going to win. And, you know, they're just going to give him shit for it. But that's just how bandits are. Now, we also find out here that Raido knew about the plan, too, which makes his stand when he was being tortured even more impressive. It was already, like, the things they were doing was already horrific to him, and he was already holding his own, but this really makes that stand impressive, at least in my eyes, and hopefully y'all's as well. Now, we kind of go forward here, and all the commanders start to realize, hey, they're realizing the same thing that the lower level soldiers have already realized. They're like, we've got way too many people to deal with here. And Maron's kind of been quiet all this chapter and the last half of last week's chapter as well, because he's deep in thought about it. And he tells Kokuo to shut up because she's all pissed off. She's like, oh, my problems are so much worse than you, Maron. Get it together. But it's like, no, it's not. He's genuinely worried about all the soldiers that they have to deal with, and she's just salty because Kanki didn't tell her the plan. But anyways, they're kind of antsy to see the boss, but Maron is still, like I just said, he's like, dude, this plan worked too well. There's way too many. Like, the plan is crazy, but it actually worked too good. It's kind of funny that he went from thinking the plan wasn't going to work to now it overworked. Like, it worked too well. I think that's a funny little exchange. Now, we cut away and we get back to the High Shin unit, our favorite boys, the squad, the main stars of this series. Now, they're still fighting because they, as it turns out, have not received the news that Kocho has been defeated. So they're still battling. They're like, oh, we can't get past them. But then suddenly, everyone starts retreating. They're kind of confused. They're like, what's going on here? Why is everyone retreating? And as this happens, finally, Kanki's messengers arrive. And they're like, yeah, Kanki killed Kocho. And everyone's like, what? Hey, are you lying to me? What's going on here? And they're like, dude, what are you talking about? Why would we lie to you? We're just making sure everything goes smoothly. You gotta relax. Like, let's go, bro. What's wrong with the High Shin unit? I can imagine Kanki's army hates the High Shin unit just because they're very different. Kanki's is very, like, they not hate each other, but they're bandits, right? So it's a very rowdy bunch, a very like mean, cold, and I feel like the Haishin unit's just very like aloof and fun. So I can imagine they don't like dealing with them too much. Now before they leave, Naki's like, "Yo, Bain," and Bain, you can tell there's bad blood here. He's like, because Bain calls him a traitor. He's just like, "Dude, what happened? Is everyone okay?" And Bain's like, "The boss, Kokuo, and Marone are fine. That's all I know." And Naki's just like, "Okay." And it's a nice little exchange to end this little part of the Haishin unit off, because you get to see a little bit of how, even though Naki left, Bain definitely still respects him for everything that they've been through together, but they're just obviously never going to have that same relationship they once had when they were fighting side by side. The three commanders finally reach Kocho's HQ, and at this point they're all kind of confused. They're like, "We thought Raito was just here. Where is he?" And then Messenger comes in and is like, "You guys are all close with Raito. Come with me. Come on." And they're all starting to get a little worried now. They're like, "You found Raito, but he was at Kocho's HQ, but now he's not." And they start to realize, "Oh, Raito's dead, isn't he?" And then they kind of go back. They take a step back. Like, "Wait, no. Raito wouldn't die that easily. I mean, it's Raito. Come on now. We're talking about Raito here. There's no way he would die. He's got to be alive. Like, it's fine. They said he found him, right? Like, it's going to be okay." But then they arrive. Kanki's sitting there, cool, calm, and collected as ever. And he just points over at the setup. Now, it's a haunting setup. I mean, you've just got this big old chest in the middle, a bunch of tables with severed heads around it. I mean, it's a terrifying image. So the three of them walk over. They look at all the heads. They're like, "Oh, fuck. This is kind of messed up. But, hey, where's Raito? I thought you said you found him." And Kanki's like, "No, not the heads, the chest." They look down, and now this is where, if you've seen the movie Seven, as clearly Hara is a big fan. I mean, look, you turn the page and you know exactly this panel. It's haunting. It's terrifying. It's Raito's one eye kind of poking up with the tattoo around it, in a pool of his own blood, all of his severed limbs. I mean, you've got his hand there, no fingers, his foot, no toes, and everyone is shook. Everyone, they all kind of gasp, take a step back. They're like, what is going on? No, Raito, like, it's bad, man. This is just a horrific scene. It's awful. It's awful. Kokuo even throws up, despite the fact that, I mean, she's been with the Kanki army for a while now. She's seen a lot of messed up things, but it just goes to show that no matter how much you're used to that sort of thing, when it comes to torture and killing, when it happens to someone you're close with, no matter what kind of pain you've dished out, it still hurts you just as bad. Now, at this point, the Saki clan shows up and they're like, "Yo, we have information. We just tortured a few of the survivors, and it turns out Raito was tortured while he was alive. They cut him up. He's still alive and breathing, but during all of the torture, during everything, despite their attempts, he did not say a single word." Now, that is just, we obviously had already seen that as the reader, but to everyone else, they go, wow. They see what happened to him. They see how messed up his body is, what's left of it anyways. And Maron just takes it horribly. He drops to his knees. He's like, he knew about the boss's plan. If he had said anything, we would have completely lost. And let's be very deliberate here. Not just Kanki's army would have lost. The entirety of the Kin army would have lost here. I mean, Raito's resolve in not saying anything saved Kin's entire campaign in this arc. So, once again, just rest in peace, Raito. You're better than all of us in some ways. But yeah, it just goes to show Raito's resolve. Super impressive. Anyways, Kanki stands up. He starts just kind of saying some last things he wanted to say to Raito. He's like, "Oh, they made you even uglier than you already were." Just kind of shooting this shit as the bandits do. And they're like, man, I told you to run away and not overdo it, you dumbass. He dips his hand in the blood and kind of puts his hand on Raido's face one last time. And everyone's just like, oh, those bastards, who did this? Saki's like, alright, it was Kocho and the torturers. However, they're all cowards. They set up this little scene and then killed themselves because they knew that what we did to them would be eons worse than what they did to Raido. I mean, you're talking about professionals of the craft here. So the Sasaki clan's just like, there's only one left. And then Kanki immediately is like, how many? Everyone's kind of confused, like, I just said there's one left. He said, not you, Moran. How many? And people are like, oh, I got you. So earlier we talked about this problem that we've been having. Way too many Zhao troops. Way too few Kanki army members. The solution has manifested here at the end of this chapter. Kanki's rage is probably, I feel like it normally sits at about 8 out of 10. It's probably at like a fucking 8,000 out of 10 after this. Seeing what they did to Raido, but then also knowing that he held out despite everything. I mean, Kanki's like, alright, Raido, this is for you. They are going to suffer. And I mean, let's be honest here. Are the torturers cowards for killing themselves after setting up this little display and doing stuff to Raido? Yes. However, I don't blame them. But I wanted to say one last thing here about this. You have to think about what all these prisoners are about to have to endure. Kanki is not someone to show mercy. He's pissed off. You tortured and then flaunted the dead body of one of his top brass. And now the citizens of the citizens of Zhao, as all the soldiers ultimately are about to suffer because of this. If they had just killed Raido and like discarded his body, Kanki, you know, he probably still would have killed a lot of the prisoners. But now, if you think a single one of these prisoners is going to be alive when Kanki's done with them, you're simply wrong. Now, what can we expect from Kanki here? Now, I have very high expectations for him. As sick as that may sound, I think we're going to see some of what we've already seen from him do. You know, you think back to I'll never forget this, when Kanki's first introduction and he put the heads on the spears and rolled them into the army camp. Like, we can expect some of the usual stuff that we've seen from Kanki, but I'm expecting to see some new stuff from him too. So leave in the comment section below. What's the extent of Kanki's range here? Just how messed up do you think it's gonna get? It's looking bad for the prisoners though, guys. It's looking. I would not want to be in their shoes right now, because what's in store for them is a hell worse than anyone could possibly imagine. Alright, that's going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like the video if you did. Leave a comment detailing some of your thoughts on today's chapter. And make sure to subscribe for more anime and manga content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.